What's up guys, it's Scoopman5000. Today we're back for another action figure review, and we're looking at the brand new Todd McFarlane Gold Label collection. This is Todd McFarlane designed Batman and Mandarin Spawn. And so the Gold Label, a brand new initiative product line from McFarlane Toys. Initially when it was revealed, I thought it would be kind of unique things like these two, but as it turns out, it's more just like a repaint line, and the only reason that it's Gold Label is that it's exclusive to Walmart. So these I ordered as soon as they went up a couple months ago. Finally, they're showing up, actually on time, surprisingly enough, from Walmart.com. This is definitely two of the most exciting releases, at least in my opinion. We also have characters like The Witcher, and we also have another couple Gold Label figures coming out later in the year, but for now this is a great start to that lineup. So on the DC Multiverse side, we have the Batman designed by Todd McFarlane, brand new ground up figure. And then on the right side, we have the Mandarin Spawn. Now interesting here, obviously Batman comes from the DC Multiverse, but there is no dedicated Spawn line right now. This is a one-off Mandarin Spawn. This really makes me hope for like a fully articulated DC Multiverse style series of Spawn figures, even if they went ahead and just remade the old school figures like they're doing here. But to get a new classic Spawn, to get a new Violator, to get a new Clown, really would be some amazing stuff. And if they went right alongside the DC Multiverse figures in terms of scale and articulation, sign me right up for that. So obviously the packaging is going to be a little bit different because these come from two separate lines, but they're similar kind of in terms of their shape. They have the Gold Label, McFarlane Toys up top. On the Batman side, it's more traditional DC Multiverse stuff, and where the logo goes, we're getting a Todd McFarlane signature. On here, you get a lot more ornate Mandarin designs to go along with Mandarin Spawn. When you flip it out to the other side, you see that design carried over for Spawn. Here it just says Batman. On the back of the Batman figure, you get the card artwork, as well as the other characters you can collect. For the Spawn, it's a lot more similar to like their Mortal Kombat offerings, where you just get a large shot of the figure itself, and then that's about it for the packaging. And then here is the barcodes on the bottom. These have their own UPCs, their own spots on the shelf at Walmart. So you got Mandarin Spawn and Todd Batman. But with packaging taken care of, we're going to go ahead, we're going to open these figures up. We're going to start with the Todd Batman and then finish off with the Mandarin Spawn. And here's the McFarlane Batman out of the packaging. For his accessories, you're getting a pair of goggles that go over the cowl in a kind of creative way. Admittedly, I don't really like the look of these, but that's the beauty of it. It's an accessory. You don't have to include it on the figure. They're almost like a steampunk kind of looking goggles, but for me, they're not for me. I really do like the look of the cowl by itself. And then also, a little bit cooler, he's got some bladed weapons that he can sheath behind him, right behind his cape, and then he also holds them pretty well. Obviously, we're getting the figure stand, the black figure stand with the little DC logo kind of shined in there. And then we're also getting the trading card. You can see some kind of concept art of this Todd Batman. It really reminds me of like a Arkham City skin or something like that. And then when we flip it to the back, you can see that this is the Todd McFarlane original design. That's the source of this. You get the Bruce Wayne info. And then you see the read-up, which kind of gives some history. Todd went on to become a titan of the comic book industry, but has always had an affinity for Batman, stating, "He's always been one of my favorite characters. I've always liked the fact that Batman has no powers. When it comes down to it, he's just a dude in a costume. Conceivably, if Batman were in a huge battle in space without any of his gadgets and tech, he could potentially die, unlike Superman." So throwing some shade at Superman in this Batman-heavy DC Multiverse line, and it's only fitting that the first ever Gold Label we're getting is Todd's own Batman. And this is kind of representative of what a lot of people have issue with, is that there's too many Batman figures by McFarlane, but my argument to that is that you have like the Dark Knight's Metal, which is a whole subline of figures we've never gotten before, because it's a relatively new storyline. So those are all brand new Batman designs. But in this case, entirely new, brand new, ground up design by Todd McFarlane. So there's no other Batman figure you're going to have that's going to look exactly like this. Now it takes some influence. It's not the most original design, I guess, but technically this is a brand new design. And for me, I'll take all the Batmans Todd wants to come out with, pump them out in DC Multiverse. I'm a huge fan of them, and everyone so far seems to be getting better. Now in this case, a lot of people don't like this design. I do like this design, but it's not like their best figure. I guess I'll put it that way. Starting off, we'll go to the head sculpt here, and I do like the head sculpt. I like the cowl. I kind of like the shape of the head here, and he's just kind of got this older, like more stoic kind of look, and it also looks like something out of like a 90s comic book Todd McFarlane style. That continues down into the cowl here, where he's got those pointed shoulders, which also kind of make a bat shape to the whole kind of shoulder piece here, which is really cool. And then the bat logo, Todd has actually said that this is more just part of the cape, and the real center logo is actually supposed to be the belt here with the yellow outline. The suit underneath has some nice texture. This is a padded up, chunky Batman ready for some fight. I think when Todd was going over the design here, he tried to make this kind of practical. That's why he's got all these different pouches, different survival things. He's got a bunch of knives and blades so he can defend himself. The armor looks very padded inside the thighs here, on the torso, especially in the middle there. He's even got little tactical pouches on one of his arms here. And then when we get down to his gauntlets, usually where we just have like the fins right here, these are actually a little bit bent on mine. But you see there's spikes all around this, so, you know, he can block and get defensive on his enemies. So this is a very defensive Batman, but also he's got the bladed weapons, so really just a very hand-to-hand combat, tactical look for Batman, which again goes with the kind of inspiration behind Todd's design here. You see all sorts of little pouches. You got some black pouches, some brown ones. You got even grenades on his leg here. You can see a better look at some of the leg armor on this side. Down when you get to the legs, I feel like they're kind of bowed out. It's kind of hard to get him. He's kind of almost got like a whole slouch thing going on. The torso's a bit misaligned and the legs are a bit kind of misaligned. So, and I can't really seem to get him perfectly straight standing. Seems like one leg is maybe longer than the other. On the back, you don't get much detail. And the cape here, actually pretty conservative for a Todd McFarlane design. Todd's always been one to focus on capes and swoosh and dynamic poses, so I'm surprised actually. It's a very slim cape. You almost barely see it in the front. I'd love for Todd, even if he had like a $30 price range figure and he could incorporate some cloth capes with some wires in them, it'd be really nice. But for now we're stuck with these hard plastic ones, or I guess a softer material would be more accurate. And the boots down here, they almost have a bit of a bat logo here as well. They got some kind of tactical little textures to them, some little armor pieces. The feet are very flat, and the figure does stand all right. But that does about cover the aesthetic of the Todd McFarlane Batman. Not going to be for everybody, but for me, that kind of Todd McFarlane 90s exaggerated kind of ridiculous looking stuff, it's really right up my alley. I love figures that look like that, and for this being a brand new original design, I think it's one of the cooler Batmans he has released. Going into articulation, it's that standard McFarlane system we're all used to at this point. Couple of dozens of figures into this DC Multiverse line. So the head is on like a ball joint here. You're getting all the movement you're going to need. Goes down that far and back that much. Now he's a bit tight, but the torso is that standard ball joint here and ball joint here. With that, he's going back pretty far, all the way back. You're creating a bit of a gap here. Forward is not so much. I feel like this ab piece is kind of blocking that. So forward, I'm getting about that much. I'm sure you could get more if you really pushed it. And he does have a little bit of tilt as a result. The butterfly joint is there. It's almost entirely hidden. I don't know how usable it even is, but it is there. You're also getting the traditional hinge and the swivel on the shoulder. Very clicky. You're getting the upper bicep cut. The double jointed elbow goes about that far. And then the wrist joints are the McFarlane Special. The legs are going to split about that far. It's almost different on each leg. And you can see that whole system in there. That allows for a bit of rotation. He kicks back that far, forward that much. The double jointed knee goes all the way back. A bit ugly, but does do the job. And then finally, we're getting that ankle rocker. We're getting that McFarlane hinge. And then we're also getting the signature toe joint. And with the aesthetics of the Todd McFarlane Batman taken care of, let's go ahead and let's do some comparison. For your Dark Knight's metal figures, you got the standard metal Batman from that cover with his weapons there. And then you got the Grim Knight, which I previously said was the most Todd McFarlane Batman ever. But now we actually have a real Todd McFarlane designed Batman. He's actually a little bit taller than both of them, and I think that this metal Batman was the tallest up to this point, so it seems like we're only creeping up in the size here. So for right now, the Todd McFarlane Batman, I mean, obviously the ears have a bit to do with that, but even if you straighten about, I think to the top of his head, I think the Todd's got him beat just a little bit, or maybe they're about equal. And then for some other standout Batman figures, we got the Flashpoint Thomas Wayne Batman, another one that actually pairs pretty well with this guy. And then we got the Arkham Knight Batman, another heavily armored tactical Batman. And you could see some similarities here. I mean, obviously any design of a modern Batman is going to share a little bit of DNA. For some more Todd creations, here's the Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn figures. We got the Blood Feud and we got the Default Skin. And then for some Batman villains, here he is with the Arkham Asylum Joker, and then the Arkham Origins Deathstroke. And yeah, he really does look like a really cool Arkham City skin. I could definitely see this version of Batman squaring off against these two. But with the Batman taken care of, let's go ahead. Let's move on to the slightly more interesting, the brand new Mandarin Spawn. And here is the Mandarin Spawn out of the packaging. For his accessories, you're only really getting two, which are these huge bladed weapons, signature weapons of the Mandarin Spawn. So one's more like a spear, and one's more like a sword, but they're both big and exaggerated. They got tons of ornate sculpt in them. I'll actually bring them onto the camera here. You can see that sculpt going on. There's like a dragon going on, and then tons of little ornate details at the base of this blade. The hilts themselves are pretty basic. There's a little bit of wrapping up at the top, and then like a plume coming out of the end here in like almost a metallic green, which is interesting. And then for the spear weapon, it's kind of similar shape to his helmet actually, and you can see the Spawn logo etched in the middle there, some more ornate designs, and then the same kind of thing with the handle, pretty basic. And what we're left here is a very cool return to form for McFarlane, just pumping out these amazing sculpts, and the Mandarin Spawn, definitely one of the coolest old school figures from about the early 2000s, late 90s. And this really makes me want to see all of those designs from those figures reimagined in this style with all the articulation and just brand new figures of Spawn on the shelf in a Target and a Walmart in 2021. I think it'd be really cool. For now, we'll go ahead and we'll get a closer look at him. There's tons of sculpt to go over here. So this is done in this kind of strange colors where it's got this light blue and the silver. Mandarin Spawn more traditionally is in the red and gold. There was a few different colorways back in the day. I don't think there was one quite like this. I know there was like a yellow one and maybe a black version, but I don't remember a blue version. And I know we are going to get a standard release version of this guy, which makes me even more hopeful for that 7-inch collector series of Spawn figures. For now, it's really only just Mandarin Spawn, and then of course the Mortal Kombat figures. But there's almost too much sculpt to even go over. The helmet, really crazy stuff going on here. All the horns, kind of like an Oni mask or something like that. Now this silver I kind of don't like. It's a bit pearly, bit cheap looking, I guess, especially when you compare it to the gold paints on the original figure, which we're going to do in a little bit. I think the silver just comes across a little bit dull. I mean, especially when you get into this kind of piece here with the skull and all this design here. Like, is this supposed to be that gray, or is it supposed to be silver? Because it does just show up a little bit dull. But when you get to certain metallics, like the metallic green, I think that looks really good. You got a little bit of a patch here. You got the Spawn logo in the middle, even on his eyes here and his eyebrows. All that looks really good. And really each piece of armor here has its own unique sculpt and really like its own unique like little face on it. So here there's like a bone structure of a little mask here, similar to the one that he's wearing. That's surrounded by some silver armor. When we go to the other side, here's the big bone spikes coming out. These are actually flipped from the original design, I think. And I think mine might actually be broken because that seems like it's coming off way too easily. I thought it was pegged or something, but that's going to definitely have to get glued. Kind of strange how they attached it, almost like the new Black Series figures, where it's just kind of sitting here. But for now, I guess that's going to be something I'm going to have to glue, so that's kind of unfortunate. It does kind of sit when you get in a certain spot. There's like a little demon mask right here, and then some designs going on in the middle there. The chest, again, that big Spawn face with the teeth, and then that goes down into this large cloth that's covering the whole lower section of him. Again, there's that skull design going on, and there's a cool design up here too. I almost don't even know how to describe a lot of this because it's very ornate, very small little details. There's even quite a lot of sculpted detail on the black kind of undersuit here that you might not notice. When you get to the back, it's not really painted, so you can get a better look there. There's just a bit of that bone color in the middle, but there's like this kind of zigzag design going on, some pants, some little weaving texture, I guess you could say. And I love the little knee pad designs here. You get these two different kind of masks going on here. They're both different sculpt, and they both look excellent. And then he's got these large like dragon feet or something like that. I don't know what you'd even really call them, but these have their own kind of armor designs. Again, asymmetrical. They have different designs on each. A little bone mask there, and then just some more ornate details there. But other than my bone armor kind of just falling right off there, this is a great looking figure, and I can't wait to get the other colorways. I'm going to have to glue this, and hopefully that's going to stay in place. But for now, we're going to go ahead and let's do some articulation. I'm sure it's similar to the other recent DC figures, but it's definitely going to be a bit unique because of the shape and the design of this guy. So the head, I can't even tell what's going on here. It's very limited, whatever it is. I think it might just be a ball joint, but you're really not getting much movement at all. Back, it doesn't really seem like it even wants to budge. Forward, it goes forward a little bit, and there is a little bit of tilt, but very limited in the head sculpt here. He's going to be really just looking to either side more than likely. The torso, again, limited, but it does have the double ball that we're used to. With that, it's actually going back pretty far, mostly due to the bottom joint. Forward, I can't imagine it's that much. Again, it's all the bottom joint doing that work, but forward is pretty decent. The shoulders do have the butterfly joint. The upper bicep cut is there. The elbow is single jointed. It goes past 90 just about. And then it's those McFarlane ball joints at the wrist. The legs split, but they also look like ball joints. They don't exactly look like those McFarlane system, at least as far as I could tell. There is just a little bit of rotation. The knees are double jointed. They're only blocked by this bone protrusion here. It actually lines up pretty perfectly with the leg, but that is still pretty impressive. And there actually is nothing going on the feet here, which is a bit worrying. I wish they did have a bit of an ankle rocker or something, but I guess it's kind of just to, I mean, he's got flat feet, so he's going to stand, but you're going to have to maneuver it a bit more difficult than if he just had an ankle rocker. And with that little armored piece seated by the skin of its teeth, we're going to go ahead and let's do some comparisons with the Mandarin Spawn. And here we are with the Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn figures, and imagine a whole line that just looked like this. I mean, the Mortal Kombat Spawns were some standout figures of 2020, and the Mandarin Spawn, other than this piece right here, is a really impressive figure, really awesome sculpt, and we have like Medieval Spawn, Gunslinger Spawn. There's a million different ones. That's all they did in the 90s was just pump out these different Spawn designs. I'd love to see them come to life in the super articulated 7-inch style. And then finally, the special comparison that it is, we're going to bring in the original Mandarin Spawn figure. This is from, like I said, the late 90s, early 2000s. And you could argue in a lot of ways that this one is actually more impressive. I mean, this one's maybe more readable, and I guess it's going to be a more fair comparison once we actually get this color scheme on this Spawn. But I mean, that's what McFarlane was doing. They were making these amazing sculpts that still hold up 20, 30 years later. But you could see a lot of the design really did carry over here pretty accurately. And like I said, that bone armor is actually flipped on this figure. So really cool stuff. You could see the evolution of the Mandarin Spawn, and I'm super excited. Definitely hope that we get a full-fledged line of Spawn figures from the modern McFarlane Toys. And that is going to do it for your look at the Todd McFarlane Batman and the Mandarin Spawn from the Gold label. Overall, a pretty strong start. I'm going to have to glue that Spawn shoulder armor, but other than that, some really cool, solid figures. I love the McFarlane style, and these are two figures very representative of that style and that design. And you can't go wrong with a brand new Batman and a brand new Spawn. So overall, if you're able to find these figures, which shouldn't be too hard, McFarlane really does do a good job with distribution like no other company. So hopefully these will be plentiful in Walmart. I think they might even still be available online. Definitely go pick them up. They got my recommendation. Can't wait for that single colorway, the red and gold of the Mandarin Spawn and whatever other Gold label figures we got coming our way. Like I said, there's the Witcher. I think there's a golden version of the Red Death. There's a Warhammer figure in there. They're really just pulling from all the different licenses that McFarlane has and either making like cool repaints or new figures, and they're putting them in this Gold label line. So it's pretty unique, not really like anything else in the other companies like a Hasbro or something, where there's kind of a homogeny between the different licenses where they're all under this blanket of the Gold label. It's like if you saw like a Star Wars figure and a Marvel figure and a G.I. Joe, and they all had their own sub-series that were kind of linked. I'm going to be leaving the video off, of course, with some figure photography, and you can see my library of figure photography on Instagram, scoopman_5000. But that is going to do it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next action figure review.